She's got everything: comfort, attention, a man who truly cares, and somehow, she's still unhappy. You see it everywhere now. Women walking through life with everything they once said they wanted, yet their eyes tell another story. They're restless, empty, and the men beside them? Confused, exhausted, blaming themselves for emotions they didn't cause. You can give her time, affection, effort, even your peace, but the more you give, the less she feels. Because what she's fighting isn't you, it's the war inside herself. We live in an era where women have more comfort, freedom, and validation than at any point in human history. Yet anxiety, depression, and chronic dissatisfaction among women have skyrocketed. How is it that in a world built to empower them, so many still feel empty? Modern culture told them happiness was found in endless choice, validation, and attention. But that constant chase creates a paradox. Because the more options you have, the less peace you keep. Women today are pulled in 1,000 directions. Be sexy, but not shallow. Be independent, but still wanted. Be confident, but stay humble. Be career-driven, yet nurturing. Be everything, all at once. And when the human mind is stretched between so many masks, it cracks. This is the quiet crisis no one wants to talk about. The reason so many women drift through relationships restless, comparing, doubting, never content. And men, especially good men, get caught trying to fill a void that doesn't belong to them. Because here's the uncomfortable reality. You can't make a woman happy who's addicted to dissatisfaction. You can only lose yourself trying. In the next section, we'll dig deeper into why this pattern exists. Not as an attack, but as truth. Because until you understand the psychology behind modern female unhappiness, you'll keep mistaking her chaos for your failure. So ask yourself, why does comfort breed misery? And why, even surrounded by abundance, does she still feel poor inside? Stay with me. This is where it gets dark and real. You've seen it play out 1,000 times. The woman who has a great job, friends, looks. Yet she scrolls at 2 a.m., stomach tight, comparing herself to a filtered highlight reel. She reads self-help threads, swipes for validation, and still wakes up with the same quiet ache. Why? Because culture rewired desire into a machine that never stops needing fuel. Here's the ugly psychology. Human satisfaction is not a destination you arrive at by collecting things or approvals. It's an internal balance, a quiet homeostasis. But modern life trades that balance for signals, likes, matches, compliments, achievement badges. Each signal tricks the brain into thinking, "I'm enough," only to vanish 5 minutes later. So the brain learns to chase the hit, not the contentment. Add childhood conditioning into the mix. Many women are raised on two messages that contradict: you can be anything, and be careful what men think. They're taught to perform, to be likable, attractive, accomplished, and then punished by subtle social rules when they succeed. That creates a split, an outward confidence masking an inward insecurity. Performance becomes survival, and performance is exhausting. Then there's the comparison engine, social media. It's designed to show you impossible standards, framed in intimacy and intimacy's absence. Perfect bodies, curated love lives, effortless careers. The mind does what it always does, compares. Comparison breeds scarcity. Scarcity breeds anxiety. Anxiety breeds perfectionism. Perfectionism destroys peace. Now layer on projection. The person who refuses to sit with their own darkness will project it outward. Quick example. She criticizes you for being emotionally unavailable. But the real charge isn't about your emotional range. It's a mirror. She's uncomfortable with her own emptiness and reflexively blames the nearest person. Projection is an emotional reflex, not a logical accusation. It isn't personal, but it feels personal, and you take the hit. Genetics matter too. temperament, susceptibility to anxiety or rumination, neurochemical differences. Some minds are wired to overscan threats, others to savor. Environment interacts with wiring. A woman genetically prone to rumination, raised in a world that equates value with external validation, gets a recipe for chronic dissatisfaction. This combination, craving the next validation, childhood performance scripts, relentless social comparison, projection, and wiring, makes unhappiness self-perpetuating. It's a treadmill. The harder you run to please, the faster the treadmill speeds up. Which brings us to you. When you try to fix this from the outside, more attention, more gifts, more patience, you are putting soothing balm on a wound that never heals because it isn't caused by you. You become a temporary pacifier. The relief you provide lasts as long as the hit you give her, and then she needs another. So what do? Do you become a rescuer forever? Or do you learn where to place your energy? In the next section, we'll expose how these psychological forces show up every day in relationships, the shifting goalposts, the blame games, the emotional ambushes, and exactly how they drain men who don't know the rules. Ask yourself now, are you still trying to fix someone who needs to learn how to fix themselves? Picture this. You're in a relationship that feels like walking on glass. One week she's warm, affectionate, radiant, like the woman you first fell for. The next, she's cold, irritable, and distant. You replay every word in your head, trying to find what you did wrong. You fix, you compromise, you reassure, you shrink yourself a little more each time, thinking maybe this will calm her storms. But here's the bitter truth, brother. You can't calm a storm that lives inside her mind. Every time you sacrifice your peace to please her moods, you teach her one thing: your stability is negotiable. You become a mirror for her emotions. When she's low, you scramble to lift her up. When she's angry, you try to neutralize it. You stop being a man and start being a mood manager, and she'll resent you for it. Because deep down, she doesn't want a man who bends. She wants one who anchors. Let's be real. Modern relationships have turned into emotional tug-of-wars where men are expected to absorb women's chaos while being blamed for it. She feels anxious. You must not be communicating enough. She's insecure. You must not validate her properly. She's bored. You're not romantic anymore. Notice the pattern. You're always the cause, never the cure. Because in her mind, happiness is externalized. It's something you must provide. And the moment you give it, the goalpost moves. This is why so many men burn out. They confuse love with therapy. They think patience equals strength, when in reality it becomes weakness when there's no boundary. Because what she truly needs, though she'll never admit it, is resistance, not cruelty, not coldness, but masculine firmness that doesn't crumble when her emotions test it. Philosopher Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Most women today have never faced their unconscious. They project it into relationships, turning every partner into a battlefield. They call it chemistry, but it's actually chaos looking for a savior. And if you don't understand that dynamic, you'll spend years bleeding energy into a void that cannot love you back. Not because she's evil, but because she's unhealed. So when she says, "I just don't feel happy anymore," understand, she's not describing you. She's describing the ache of a self that no external validation can fill. Your role is not to heal her. Your role is to stay whole while she decides whether she wants to meet you there. In the next section, we're going deeper into the culture that breeds this emptiness. Because it's not just psychological, it's social engineering, and it's killing genuine connection between men and women. Stay with me. This is where we expose how modern culture made unhappiness the new identity. Let's rip the mask off, because this isn't just about emotion, it's about conditioning. Modern society has turned female unhappiness into a brand, a weapon and a form of social currency. Scroll through social media. Everywhere you look, women are rewarded for complaining, not growing. Influencers make millions selling self-love courses to women who don't even know what self is. They preach empowerment, but what they're really selling is victimhood, the idea that feeling offended or unsatisfied somehow makes you enlightened. It's the industrialization of insecurity. Women are told, "You deserve more. You're a queen. Never settle." But no one tells them, more of what? More validation? More power? More attention? Because the system depends on them never finding enough. A woman at peace stops consuming. A woman at peace stops comparing. A woman at peace stops needing permission. And that's dangerous to an economy built on dopamine and discontent. Think about it. A woman who's content with her natural femininity, who values loyalty, simplicity, family, love, doesn't sell products. But a woman who's constantly chasing the next hit of validation will spend her whole life shopping for happiness. Clothes, cosmetics, surgery, status, attention. It's not empowerment. It's dependency disguised as freedom. Society has tricked women into believing that the masculine traits they envy, independence, dominance, achievement, will fulfill them. But they can't replace the deep biological truth. Women find meaning through connection. And when connection is replaced by competition, the soul starves. That's why so many modern women have everything except peace. Because peace doesn't trend. Rage does. Envy does. Victimhood goes viral. They are conditioned to compete, not with men, but with each other, to constantly measure their worth against someone else's filtered life. The irony? The more they compete, the lonelier they feel. The more validation they demand, the less they respect the men who give it. And the cycle deepens. Unhappiness becomes identity. If she's not struggling, she feels irrelevant. If she's not complaining, she feels invisible. And yet, it's all built on an illusion. Because no amount of external validation can silence the truth inside. Happiness isn't given, it's built. But society doesn't want her to know that, because the moment she stops chasing, she stops obeying. So what happens when this conditioning enters a relationship? She doesn't see a partner, she sees a supplier. You become her emotional Amazon Prime, delivering reassurance, attention, affection, all on demand. And if the delivery's late, she threatens to cancel the subscription. In the next section, we'll expose why this cultural brainwashing destroys relationships, and what happens when men keep trying to save women who are addicted to being unfulfilled. Brace yourself, because this next part might sting. Here's where most men lose themselves. They see her pain and mistake it for a problem they can fix. They think if they just love harder, listen longer, give more, she'll finally relax into happiness. But every ounce of energy you pour into that void only teaches her one thing. Your worth depends on her approval. And once she senses that, it's over. Because attraction dies the moment a man becomes emotionally obedient. You see, an unhappy woman doesn't want peace. She wants stimulation. Her chaos gives her a sense of importance. Drama becomes the fuel that makes her feel alive. She'll pick a fight over nothing, test your boundaries, sabotage a good moment, just to feel the rush of being desired, noticed, significant. And the man who doesn't understand that cycle will keep taking the bait, thinking conflict means connection. So he argues, explains, pleads, until he's drained. He starts walking on eggshells, avoiding confrontation, silencing himself. But that silence breeds resentment in both of them. She loses respect for him, and he loses respect for himself. Because deep down, she doesn't actually want a man who agrees with her. She wants one who grounds her. That's the paradox. She'll scream that she wants a sensitive man, but she'll test him until he breaks. She'll demand reassurance, but despise you the moment you give it too easily. Because in her subconscious, peace feels boring and chaos feels real. So she creates storms just to feel something. and men, desperate to keep the relationship alive, confuse endurance with strength. But strength isn't about tolerating emotional chaos. It's about refusing to drown in it. Men forget this simple truth. You are not her therapist. You are her mirror. You reflect back her energy. If she brings peace, you give peace. If she brings chaos, you give distance. That's masculine discipline, the ability to withhold energy until it's deserved. Carl Jung would call this individuation, the process of becoming whole without being consumed by another's shadow. Every man in a toxic dynamic faces this test. Will you become what she needs to feel safe, or will you remain who you are to feel free? Because once you start changing your identity to regulate her emotions, you're finished. You've abandoned your center, and she'll feel it instantly. The moment a man loses himself trying to make her happy, she no longer trusts him. Why? Because he's no longer solid, and a woman can't relax into a man who keeps dissolving to please her. So she spirals further, searching for the emotional gravity he lost, and eventually leaves him for the next source of stimulation. This is the tragedy of the modern relationship. Men chasing peace through people addicted to conflict. But here's where you break the cycle, by refusing to play the rescuer. Because the more you try to save her from herself, the more she'll resent you for reminding her she needs saving. In the final section, we'll bring it all home. How to step off this treadmill, reclaim your energy, and live with unshakable peace in a world that profits from your confusion. Stay with me. This ending isn't about hate. It's about freedom. Here's the hard truth you've been avoiding. You can't love her into happiness. You can't earn peace from someone who thrives in disorder. And you sure as hell can't find yourself by losing yourself in her chaos. The world keeps telling you that being a good man means understanding her emotions, fixing her pain, absorbing her storms. But that's not love. That's slavery in disguise. The moment you make her happiness your responsibility, you surrender your soul. And once you surrender your soul, she stops respecting you. Because no woman can admire a man who worships her feelings more than his own purpose. Brother, the modern world is designed to break men like you. It tells you that love means submission, that masculinity is toxic, that leadership is controlling. Meanwhile, every masculine quality that once built civilizations, discipline, stoicism, boundaries, logic, purpose, has been demonized. And what's left? A generation of men who've traded their backbone for approval. You must understand something most men never grasp. When a woman senses that your emotional balance depends on her, she will test you until you collapse. Not because she's cruel, but because she's wired to find strength. She needs to feel that your world doesn't crumble under her storms. If it does, she loses attraction. If it doesn't, she finds peace, even if she won't admit it. That's masculine polarity. It's not about dominance or control. It's about stability. You are the mountain. She is the weather. Your job is not to stop the rain. It's to remain unmoved by it. The most powerful man isn't the one who convinces women to love him. It's the one who no longer needs to. Because the man who stands firm in silence, purpose, and principle radiates something society can't sell: self-respect. That's why she's drawn to the man who walks away. Not because he's cruel, but because he's free. Freedom terrifies the modern world, and that's exactly why it's the ultimate form of power. So stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop bending for those who only love you when you're useful. And stop trying to rescue those who drown by choice. The moment you stop trying to fix others, you begin to heal yourself. The moment you stop chasing female validation, you start earning male sovereignty. And when you finally realize that peace isn't found in a woman but within a man, that's when you ascend. The modern world wants you weak, emotional, and desperate. Be the opposite. Be still, be grounded, be dangerous, not in violence, but in discipline. Remember, you can't lead anyone until you can lead yourself. You can't love anyone until you can sit alone without craving validation. And you can't attract peace until you become peace. If this hits something deep inside you, it's because you've felt it, you've seen it, you've lived it. And now it's time to rise above it. Stop trying to fix everyone else's happiness. Master your own. That's how real strength is born. That's how men rebuild their souls. If you found truth in these words, like, share, and subscribe. Support the mission using the link in the description below, because this channel exists for one reason: to help men see through the illusion, to protect your peace in a world designed to destroy it, and to remind you that you are not broken, you are simply waking up.